Ba weep Granagh weep Nini Bong. Welcome back to Transformers AutoBook Club, a weekly podcast where I and a guest read, discuss, and deep dive into one issue of the Marvel Transformers comics. It's another landmark episode today. We're going to be reading parts 1 and 2 of the first ever Marvel UK Transformers story. Just a quick note for anybody watching the video version. At the beginning here, before we start talking about the pages of the actual comic, there's going to be images on screen that are just relevant to whatever it is we're talking about. But later on, when we start discussing the actual comic itself, then you'll be able to see the artwork page by page as we go through. My guest is one member of the Up Nerd podcast series, Evenflow. Hi, Evenflow. How's it going?
Good. How are you after this fever dream?
Yeah, I'm okay. There's a lot to talk about in here that is confusing or weird, but it's enjoyable enough, I guess.
You sound so sure about it.
Yeah.
No, yeah, this is the first of the Marvel UK, and yeah, it's something. They had no information. They didn't know anything about the characters or anything like that. They didn't have the initial sheets, by the way. So I think I should bring that up, that they didn't have character models available to them, and they also knew that the US comics would be running, but they didn't have any idea aside from a loose outline of what would be going on. So there's only so much stuff they could do, and the artwork had to be based off the toys.
Right, and it kind of shows.
Just a little.
Not to be too harsh on it, but it's so obvious that they had to set it so far apart from the US stuff because they didn't know what was going to happen. So they made it as far away from that as possible. And then for a while, that doesn't even make sense.
Yeah.
Until I think part 3, when Prime finally explains what they're even doing in England. It's all like, what's happening? And then these UK stories are in like an issue with some of the US story, right? And then they put the UK issue in there as well.
Yeah, at 1.2, eventually in the US books, as you're going to hit, this story gets reprinted as issue 33 and 34 of the Transformers US series, which is the first time I read this way back when I was a kid reading the comic books. And I remember thinking, what the heck is this?
That's such a random point to do that.
Yeah, this is around 2 years after where you are right now in the US comics.
What's weird is to put this next to the US comic in one book when it's so completely different and the timeline is so far different. That's a really baffling choice.
And what's interesting too is the artwork. When it originally ran, it is largely black and white.
Oh.
With the occasional page was fully colored. And it makes the experience all that more jarring. Now, when it was brought over into the US, it was fully colorized. And that's probably the version you have, or the reprint you have is the version that was colored.
Yeah, it's in color for me.
From beginning to end. Yep. Yeah. So yeah, imagine that too, that a lot of these pages were just black and white.
Huh. They did print this in the US?
Yes.
Oh.
So it was colorized and it was printed in the US in 1987.
Like as a separate book?
No, it was part of the US series. So the US series gets to issue number 32 of just your standard stories. And then suddenly 33 and 34 are Man of Iron. 1 and 2 makes up issue 33, and issue 34 is the next two.
And that's it?
And then, then they just go straight back into the US stories at 35.
Like this timeline is not confusing enough already with the UK issues coming out.
Wait till you hit it in the US, because some of these characters are dead by then.
What? Why did they do that? Did they just have a schedule problem? Or?
I assume so. I don't know.
So I wanted to ask you, actually, Evenflow is the name of a Pearl Jam song. Is that where you got it from?
Well, I'm called the Uneven Flow because it dates way back. My first email address just had Even Flow in it.
Oh, okay.
And I got called the Uneven Flow because somebody I co-hosted with forever ago, doing a billion different podcasts ago at this point, called me that. Just because I had a habit of, somebody said I had the memory or the attention span of a goldfish back then. So that was before the meds that evened me out and made me sane, though. So here we are. And yeah, that's also roughly how old I am, because that album's from 1991, baby.
Yeah. Pearl Jam got some kick-ass songs, though.
Not to mention, I did reference the fact I was reading Transformers when it came out. So
Yeah, I got all kinds of questions for you about that.
it was a trip. It was a trip. I mean, I used to co-host on TF Wire.
Oh, I know it, yeah.
Yeah, I used to co-host with Spada or Balt Matrix for those of you on YouTube. And we used to do that, and we would talk about this, that Transformers, when we were kids, and it was at the height of its popularity, would be on where I lived right around the time of the evening news, and they would occasionally put episodes on in the evening.
Wow. Like prime time.
That's how crazily popular this was. Yeah, it was a level that wouldn't be reached really until Pokemon again.
Oh, cool. I didn't really realize it was everywhere like that.
Yeah, that's kind of what it was like. It was really neat. Keep in mind, I mean, Spada is from the US. I'm from Canada. I mean, it was everywhere up here, and I lived in the sticks, but everybody knew what was going on with Transformers. You'd go to school and talk about it and stuff like that.
Yes, that was what I was going to ask you. When I was a kid, like Power Rangers was the thing. Like it felt like every day at recess we would play Power Rangers. So like, did you have that for Transformers?
Oh yeah, same thing. Yeah, you bring your toys sometimes too.
Oh man, that's so fun. So can you remember how you got into it, or was it just like naturally from just seeing it on TV?
My brother was slightly older, so he had Transformers, and I just kind of inherited the toys, and I would watch the show when it was on, and he was into comic books, so he kind of got me into the Marvel stuff originally way back when, and Transformers comics as well, same story. So yeah, I owe it all to being part of a family and having a sibling, basically.
Aw. Yeah, I wanted to ask you about the comics too, because you said you were buying them when they were coming out. So have you read like the whole series before, or like
Yes,
parts of it?
I've read every Transformers comic that's been written until now.
Dang!
So
And did you keep them all? Do you have all like your original ones?
no, I don't have the original comics anymore. I do have them in trade paperbacks and stuff,
Oh, okay.
different collected editions and things like that. It's mostly just a matter of room,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
frankly. Listen, when you move as much as I have in my lifetime, you don't want too much stuff. Same with the figures. The figures I used to have just a gigantic collection of. Now I've kind of pared it down to I just have like what I display, which are in like glass LED lit cases.
Wow, fancy.
And I tend to try, quote unquote, to have the best or my favorite version of each character
Uh-huh.
in terms of a toy. And so it might be a third party version of Hot Rod or Masterpiece Optimus Prime or stuff like that. But that's what I try to keep. I do have limits on that though too, of course, because like Optimus Prime, you can't have one figure. I still have like 12 Optimus
12?
Primes.
Literally 12?
Well, I don't know, something like that. That might be an exaggeration. Yeah, that might be over or under. Characters like him and Megatron or Shockwave that go through different rad iterations, you have to have more than one, right?
So far I don't have so many myself, but the rabbit hole's starting to open up, and I'm trying hard to be like, nope, no.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is once you get started, the room and keeping track of them, and the worst is dusting.
Oh yeah, especially little plastic things where it can get snagged. Like the duster's going to get snagged and pull it over, and then there's an avalanche.
Air duster, my friend. Air
Smart.
duster. That's what you need.
Actually, reading these comics is making me like characters that I never liked before. So it's like now I want a Ratchet figure, which like I didn't have any feelings about Ratchet before I was reading these comics, and now I really like Ratchet.
So getting into the UK comics and what you're getting into, they eventually find their footing and they get a regular writer who frequently utilized characters that the American comics were not interested in using.
Oh, that's a good idea.
And a lot of my fandom came from that.
Mhm.
I really love a lot of these characters like Nightbeat or even like Fortress Maximus and some of the others that didn't get used as heavily in the US comics. And so because of the UK, it really shaped a lot of my love of the Transformers comics. So I'm actually kind of jealous that you get to redo all of that.
Yeah, I'm getting it for the first time.
Yeah, you get to see it. I mean, I did an episode of the podcast of fine you pick, where the other person picks a movie for whatever reason. It could be something that's important to them, something like that. I chose Alien. My wife had never seen it. So Abby had never watched Alien before. And I consider it one of a handful of perfect movies.
Uh-huh.
As in, like, there's literally nothing you could change to make it any better.
Yeah.
It is, I think, the perfect film. And so anyway, she got to see it for the first time. And yeah, that's the same sort of thing that, man, I kind of wish I could do it again for the first time. And man, if you ever get to the IDW era, particularly the back half of IDW 1.0 in the comics, that is absolute bliss. So
I'm really hoping they do another Kickstarter for that stuff, because they mentioned it kind of that they want to do more.
it shows up in Humble bundles on occasion where you can get the PDFs of the entire IDW 1.0 run. So that might be a good way to do it.
Yeah, I need to get them somehow.
Yeah, largely the Transformers UK for a really long time for Transformers shaped what the mythos was for Transformers. Because remember, it went away for a while. Then we got Beast Wars. But Beast Wars would be heavily influenced by the Transformers UK. And in fact, one of the writer of Transformers UK would write episodes.
Oh.
And then, we had another hiatus again and eventually got back to Car Robots, which was, when it came back to America, it was very heavily influenced by the UK stuff. And now the Skybound stuff is super heavily influenced. You'll be reading some of these UK stories eventually and you'll go, oh, that's where Daniel Warren Johnson got this from.
Oh, that's cool. Even reading the first 4 issues of the American series, there are things in there I could see, like the seeds of what he was doing from way back then.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to find out even more stuff, because that really is what made me start to come back and read these older comics, because I loved that comic so much.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. And yeah, I look forward to you getting the chance to do that. I'm jealous.
Yeah, it's really fun so far. I'm really enjoying doing it.
I'm also jealous of Sammy.
Sammy making friends with Jazz.
Yeah, I wanted to be friends with Jazz.
Yeah, I'd be friends with Jazz too, I think. But speaking of Jazz, do you have a favorite character, or like a favorite Transformer? If you had to pick, you can pick more than one.
Yeah, probably Nightbeat on the Autobot side. If we're going Decepticon side, Shockwave.
Shockwave. Oh, Shockwave.
Basically because of the UK and then the IDW version, which is very similar. Just a cold monster who is responsible for everything.
I was about to say that, like, I've heard from everywhere that Shockwave is a terrifying character, and like he has this really terrible reputation for being like an absolute monster. But I haven't read any of that stuff. I haven't seen it yet.
It's his IDW incarnation that it's largely based on, where he's the smartest guy in the room and he knows it.
Which is so funny, because in the show he's kind of really mild, and and Megatron doesn't even have to be that harsh on him when he crumbles immediately.
Yeah, he loves Megatron on the show, and then you read the comics books from Generation 1, and oh no, he does not like Megatron.
No.
Doesn't like him at all.
Whenever I have a guest on, I always ask them about Transformers the movie, because it just seems like absolutely everybody loves it. So, but I wanted to ask you, because you were so young at the time, did you get to go and see that in the theaters? And did you need therapy afterwards?
I did, and I did. Jokes aside, so I mean, I saw it as a kid. What is really interesting to me is that it traumatized me so badly, I actually forgot I had ever seen it.
Holy moly. Oh no.
It was re-released on VHS in Canada only initially. I want to say it was 93 or 94. And I mean, I had heard about it. The internet is relatively new at this point, right? But I had heard about this Transformers movie and was essentially, oh man, I got to see this. Yeah, I can't believe, how did I miss this? I sat down and I watched the VHS and it came back. I eventually realized, oh my God, I saw this.
Oh my God.
And I had just erased it from my memory. And in particular, the scene where Prowl gets cut down and the smoke comes out of his mouth and his eyes go out.
So many people remember that so viscerally.
I had nightmares about it forever, like when I was a kid. And I had just blocked out who it was and the context. And so, yeah, seeing it again years later, where I was a teenager at the time, and I just said to myself, oh, I've seen this. I just blocked it all out. So yeah, I had seen it in theaters, and it just took a long time for me to remember.
Oh, you poor little thing. Oh no. It's traumatized you so badly. You like walled it off in your brain. Oh my gosh.
If it hits me at the right time, I'll still cry with
Oh,
You Got the Touch and
oh
Optimus
man.
Prime dying. Even though I've seen it, 100 times,
That sounds like you have a very complicated relationship with the movie. Do you enjoy it now?
I adore it now. Yeah. One of my favorite memories with my wife was taking her to see it. She had not seen any of the Transformers stuff. She's younger than I am. And so this was her first real exposure to it. She loved it. And we saw it in theater during a re-release. And she just,
So jealous.
yeah, it's just a fun, like, sort of rock opera for somebody who remembers the 80s very vaguely, was born in the back half towards the tail end, versus me who lived the entirety of the 80s. It's fun. And then I got to revisit it because, I remember going to the 2007 movie. I went to a pre-screening of it. And it was just fans. It was, I want to say, 3 days before the movie would open. And it was a screening specifically for fans. And it was a great experience.
I was about to ask. That had the potential to go really wrong.
Everybody was like hooting and hollering when Bumblebee first transforms and stuff like that. It was just a blast. And yeah, it's memories like that remind me why I love Transformers. Like, regardless of what you think of the live action movies or how they subsequently went after that first one or whatever, getting to see it with a group of fans cheering and stuff like that was just so much fun.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, for sure. That's kind of how I got into Transformers at all. It's like having a group of friends who all loved the movie and they were super into this thing and I've never seen it. I think I've told this story before, but to make it short, they would watch the movie often. And often we'd drink and watch the movie. And like that's how I got into the whole thing. It was through this like community thing where I just got brought into it by all my friends who loved it. And then, slowly by osmosis that it just made me love it
Oh
because
yeah.
especially the movie, it's so full of like quotable lines and then the soundtrack is awesome. So it was not a quiet event. Like we'd get drunk and we'd watch the movie and we'd all yell like certain lines out or whatever and then sing along with the songs and
Yeah.
like yeah, it's so much fun. And that's kind of why I started this too.
Yeah, it's one of the movies I can quote. I can quote that. I can quote every episode of Star Trek, any series, any movie, and then I
Oh
can
dang. All right.
do most of The Expanse and every Nine Inch Nails song. And those are the only things I remember, though. Don't ask me what day it is or anything else. My entire memory is taken up of those things.
I like that though. Sometimes you love something and it just stays with you forever. And often that's when you're younger, something I don't know, just lodges in your brain and it's there forever. But finding things as an adult that you love that much is just like one of the most wonderful feelings.
Yeah, I'm a nerd, and it just sort of happens. It just sort of sticks in me. So
That's how the mind works. I wanted to ask you if you have a favorite line from the movie, because there are so many amazing ones and so many. I think I've said this before a bunch of times too, but there are so many that are not good, but they're so good because they're not good.
yeah, I've got better things to do tonight than die.
Yeah.
I think has to be up there. I mean, that's great. No matter what, right?
Yeah.
That's a good one. For a time, I considered sparing your planet, but now you shall witness its dismemberment is good. Unicron was full of them. He had some good ones.
Yeah, Unicron's awesome.
Your bargaining posture is highly dubious is one I use frequently in real life. When somebody asks me to do something, I'll just say that. And they look at me funny because, very few people remember Transformers the movie enough
Yeah, that's niche.
to look at me and go like, "Oh, you must be quoting Unicron from."
Yeah. But those who know, they will
Yeah,
appreciate.
but I enjoy it, and that's the important thing.
I think Unicron has one of my favorites from the entire movie, which is like, what does he say? No one summons Megatron. Then it pleases me to be the first. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, Megs has got some good lines. I'm still sad he gets written out. I'll crush you with my bare hands, and yeah.
now and again throughout the series.
Oh, through the show, yeah, he's
Yeah,
got some amazing
yeah, it
zingers.
really does.
Yeah, you couldn't lead. What is it? You couldn't lead Cyber Ants to a picnic, Starscream.
Wow.
Good times. He does not appear in any of these issues of Man of Fire.
Not many characters do, and when they do, well, I mean, we'll get to it when we get to the issue, but I didn't know that was Mirage for a long time. That
Hmm.
didn't look like Mirage to me.
Yeah, again, I mean, based off the toy models.
And then last one before we go on to the issue itself. If you had to pick a side, but like without worrying about morals, don't worry about good or bad, but just who has more of your favorites? Are you an Autobot or a Decepticon?
Probably on the Autobot side. It's
Yeah.
tough though.
Yeah, it is hard.
They have so many good characters. And that's why this has endured, right? We're talking about a comic that debuted in 1985.
Yeah. We're talking about it 40 years
It's
in the
been
future.
40 years. Yeah. And these same characters still exist. I think the average person knows who Optimus Prime is 40 years later.
That's true.
And that's crazy to me to think about that kind of staying power.
And it's still so beloved as well. Like the people who love it really love it.
Mhm.
I'm so glad it is too. Like, man,
Yep. And it's still going.
I want the Transformers comic that's running now to run forever. I know that's like really difficult, and comics are different now than they were in the 80s too. Like it's a lot more risky, and it's a lot more things get cancelled a lot now. But I love it so intensely. I just don't want it to stop ever
Yeah.
because I really love it.
I'll say this, the continuity that I enjoyed most in terms of the comics was probably the IDW 1.0. And it got an ending, as in semi-scheduled. It was escalated a little bit because they wanted to do a relaunch into what became named the 2.0 universe, and that one got axed during its run. But the 1.0 got an ending, and that was kind of neat because you don't see that much. They got the chance to run for more than 10 years and end their universe. That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen
No,
anywhere. It doesn't happen on TV. It doesn't happen in comics. Like X-Men's never going to have a final issue. The superhero books are going to run forever. And so there's something to be said for a book like Saga
I love both of
Monstrous,
those.
and in this case, even Transformers, a licensed book that, it has the opportunity to end. Paper Girls got its ending. Transformers, one continuity for Transformers actually got its ending around the time it was supposed to.
That's super cool. Does it land? Like, does the ending? Is it going out with a bang or does it fizzle?
I still like it. It was definitely sped up, and there's things that I'm sure they wish they could have done differently, but I still enjoy it, and I think it's a good coda to the series. And like I say, there's only so much you can do, right? You run for 10 years, there's going to be unresolved plot points, or there's going to be feelings that, oh, I wish I could have done blank. But I think they did the best they could with the circumstances.
I really hope I get to read all of those. I'm really early on in doing this, and it's a lot of
Mhm.
time and a lot of effort, but it's fun.
You have 330 some odd issues of the UK book.
Yeah, I've got a lot of this to come. And I think 80 of the American one.
Of the original, yeah.
Yeah. So in my mind, I'm like, what happens at the end of this? But there's so much more there. If I want to continue, I think I probably can, but goodness knows where I'll be and how old I'll be by then. All right, yeah, so we can move on to the issue itself now. So, Uneven Flow, are you ready to roll out?
Always.
Let's do it. Let's start with the cover, which has a bunch of wild details on it already. So firstly, I know this was like 1984, or maybe, I think this is January 1985. So, of course, it's different times now, but 25p in the UK for a comic is crazy.
I don't think we can get anything for 25 cents anywhere anymore.
No.
Now, to be fair, you're gonna see inflation take hold, and this is gonna go up to 27 p in a couple issues. Yeah, you'll see it on the cover in a few, so it's skyrocketing already.
Well, that's pretty fast, actually.
Yeah, you can see everything changing to where we are today in real time in Transformers covers.
That's an interesting thing I would never have thought of, that you could actually track the economy and inflation by looking at the price of the covers.
I was being half sarcastic, but it is pretty accurate. But yeah, the
Yeah.
cover here, we get a lot of writing. I give them credit though. What's on the cover happens in the book. You get Jazz very slowly wandering towards a child.
Yeah. Not saying anything and the child looking terrified.
Yeah, creepily staring at him. And Jazz, by the way, very well done in terms of he looks like his toy.
Yeah, I was about to say that too. You can see at the bottom on his legs, there's like parts of the car that, I mean, when he transforms, that will
Yeah.
become the car, and you can really see it. Which in the
And
in the
then
US issues, you don't see that. They look completely
and then
different.
some of the detail on the chest, like he's a little more bulky than he would be if this was the US or the cartoon.
Yeah, I think usually he doesn't have that red part in the middle, right? It
Yeah.
looks like a floppy disk drive, but not like a 3.5 one of those really giant ones.
Oh boy, don't start talking about floppy disks when you're going to be doing the Marvel Transformers. You're in for an adventure with those later on. Anyway.
Oh, all right. Yeah, so the Beano, which is this really long-running comic in England, costs £2.75 now. So I've been out of England for about 10.5 years, so I don't understand pounds anymore. And I think minimum wage has doubled or more than doubled since I was living there. But yeah, like you said, you don't get anything for 25p now. Not even like a candy bar, I don't think. Or a lollipop? Maybe a lollipop.
I do want to point out too, the art and everything, the script for this was done by Steve Parkhouse. Art is John Ridgway on issues 1 and 2 with colors by Josie Furman. And just, yeah, it's fine. Like I said before, they only have the models of the toys to base the Transformers off of. And it certainly shows in stuff like, yeah, the cover and then the cover to the second issue with Creepy Mirage, but we'll get to that later.
Josie Furman, is she related to Simon Furman or just coincidence?
No.
Oh.
Just a weird coincidence, yeah.
Huh.
Spelled differently.
Oh, it is?
Maybe it's my Canadian accent. No.
No, I don't have it written down. I can't see where the credits are for this, actually. In the US issues, they have a big page that tells you who's involved, but this one, I don't think they have one, do they?
Nope.
Huh. Where did you get that from? I need to get that information myself.
So I should note, I'm reading the Titan reprints of sort of the best of UK Transformers. This was included as sort of an extra in those. And so the only reason I know that, along with some of the background info on how it was done, is because there's blurbs in them.
Okay.
So this is an old reprint from, I want to say, about 20 years ago that was distributed. And here in Canada, it was considered an import. And it's kind of an oversized comic. But yeah, that's how I know this.
And that's handy.
Every once in a while, yeah. And you're reading a reprint of it as well too, because your version takes the sort of the colorized version of it from the US issues. So reprints for everybody.
So at the top here in the blue bar, it says that this is fortnightly, so that's every 2 weeks, despite knowing that the US issues would be monthly. So I'm still baffled by the choice to do this the way they did it. I think it would have been more sensible to keep the US and the UK stories just completely separate. And reading this one, it feels like they might have been planning to do that, at least at the start.
Yeah. Or just to have a monthly comic. That's something that, yeah, I don't, comics were monthly for me in North America as well. Mm-hmm. But I guess, yeah, in the UK, a lot of comics ran every couple of weeks, which, oh boy, seems like an insane stress on your writers and artists.
Yeah, so that's why I think they combined it with the US stuff, is because then it gave them more time. They had to make less comic, but
I can barely get a podcast out in a week.
Yeah, I'm so worried about trying to get this out every week. I'm going to try my best, but where we left off in the US issues, in number 4, the Autobots and the Decepticons are fighting in a cave in Oregon, and then Shockwave shows up and now everybody's down. Mm-hmm. But this story features Jazz in a fictional place in the UK, from parts 1 and 2 at least. He doesn't explain why he's there. In part 3, eventually we do get an explanation about why they're all here at all. But for these first two parts, I looked at the wiki because I wanted to know like why they said it in the UK at all. But the writers in Marvel UK had no idea what was happening in the US comic at the time. So they just did their own thing. And they just said it in the UK to make sure that nothing that would happen could possibly clash with the US stories. But they did like too good a job because it doesn't seem connected at all, really.
No. Yeah.
And it all wraps up to the point where like this doesn't impact the US stuff.
No. It's actually kind of smart, but yeah, in terms of, I mean, it's smart because I think the readers in the UK probably would understand it that way, that, okay, you know, this adventure is happening over there. And then obviously, you know, your US readers have no idea of this.
Yeah, it stands on its own, and I can see they knew it was going to be in the UK, right? So they like aimed it at a UK audience. So they said it in England, which makes sense, like from that perspective, but not really from the story perspective.
Yeah, aside from the setting being England, there's no particular reason given.
So for now, this is just like Jazz's adventure in England.
And I mean, you know, we debut with 3 Seekers randomly bombing this kind of tourist area castle. Turns out, of course, we don't find this out until the second part, but it turns out they weren't really, you know, bombing it or anything. But it's just an interesting cold open to the Transformers.
Yeah, we get slightly more reason for them doing that, but actually it's never really fully explained.
No.
Because what they're looking for is hidden, and they have no reason to suspect it's there. So they go halfway to giving you an explanation, and then they don't fully, you know, make it make sense. But that's kind of a common thread in the comic so far anyway. Yeah. That reasoning is not the strongest all the time.
Yeah, and I mean, to a certain extent too, you have to understand, obviously, you know, this is aimed at a kid's property and it is designed to sell toys to kids. But what I find so interesting is, does this comic actually do that? Because we continue on here, and so we get the 3 Seekers, they just fly by, they bomb this area, and then our main character, Sammy, his father gets sent out to investigate, but we get introduced to Sammy, and it's our first introduction fully to a Transformer in robot mode here, because Jazz is creeping on the poor kid. And you said it before, you said it perfectly. He says nothing, and he just kind of hangs out, like staring at the kid.
I wonder if during the writing process, they weren't sure if he was able to speak, because it just is so weird for him not to say anything at all. He does eventually radio back to Optimus, so maybe they were thinking they can communicate with each other, but not necessarily with humans.
Well, we only see him speak in his car mode in this.
Yeah, which is the one that you would think is less likely to speak. You were saying they were trying to sell toys with this issue, and yeah they really were.
Well, just in general, yeah. I mean, that's the main goal of all of the Transformers media, let's be honest.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, does this make you want to buy Jazz?
This makes me want to put Jazz's name on a list. Speaking of lists, though, on the cover, they have this big yellow bar, like, before you've even read the comic, and it's like, your Transformers toy checklist. It feels more shameless than anything else I've seen so far.
Yeah.
Like, you were saying, it's always been about selling toys, but to be like, hey, here's a list of every single one available, so you know about all of them, and you can bug your parents.
Make sure to tell your parents.
Yeah, it's not subtle at all, is it?
No. But then you get to the story, and the story is kind of slow if you're a kid.
It's super slow at the beginning, and the stakes are so low as well. Yeah, so let's start going through. We open on an old castle in the fictional town of Stansham, somewhere in southern England. It says at the end of a long hot summer, which I don't know, that just feels inaccurate to me. Summer in England is like a few weeks long, and then everyone complains about how hot it is, and they try to have a barbecue, which we are disastrous at because no one has the chance to practice, and the sun only comes out for like a few weeks for the entire year, and nobody is prepared. So usually somebody's dad like makes some really questionable hamburgers and sausages that came from a supermarket freezer, and they manage to be frozen and burnt at the same time. We have no idea what we're doing.
No bangers and mash then?
Not a barbecue.
I don't know. That's the only thing I know.
Bangers and Mashes is
That's
good.
British. Yeah, we open up with a castle tourist destination and sleepy security guard.
Yeah. And we've got these like narration boxes which are like wistfully pondering how many people have been here in its long history. And quote, how many invaders had been broken on its bleak stone walls. So cheery, then. Right here at the beginning. Fitting for England, I guess.
Sounds like they're doing 300.
Yeah, it's really... The tone of this is a roller coaster. But there are not so many people around at the castle. Just a few tourists passing through and taking pictures by the gate with a very 80s shell suit on the dad there. And the narration continues that there's just enough going on to keep George Cousins, the castle attendant, busy. But he's clearly sleeping in his chair. And he gets his first name and his last name, which is one of my favorite tropes of a comics. That even the most minor characters get first name and last name. I don't know. Is that just me that finds that amusing that they keep doing that?
No, it is kind of interesting. I mean, we're used to getting half the superhero comics, all you get is their code name. Then they get one name, and then 10 issues later, you find out, oh, they had a last name or something.
I think that might be why it sticks out so much to me as weird. Like,
yeah, here they just introduce everybody by their full name.
And often it's not important.
Talk about the fact, too, that in this... So, I mean, our introduction to the Transformers, so this is in black and white. In the original version, so we went from that cover with Jazz in color and everything else to black and white. And then our first introduction within the pages to a Transformer is in black and white on the next page.
Yeah, and then in the colored version that I've got, they're all the same kind of gray color. So actually at very first I didn't realize they were Decepticons because I just thought they were some random jets. And then later on I think it's in part 3, so we won't get to it this episode, but there's a fight going on with them later on, but they're all the same color again, so you can't tell who they are.
Are there a lot of random jets in the UK? I've only ever visited for a few months total there.
I mean, not so often. There's an air base, and we have like the Red Arrows and stuff. So
that's what I mean. So I mean, listen. This isn't America where every police force has an F-15. You know, this is in the UK. So this should be out of the ordinary.
Yeah, I think so. There's an extremely loud boom, and it startles George Cousins so much that he jumps up from his chair. And he jumps up so hard that his hat comes off. And overhead, 3 jets fly past in formation. And then like I was saying, from the color, they look like regular old military jets. So I didn't really realize they were meant to be Decepticons. But
And we're seeing them from the underside, so you don't see the logo in this portion.
Yeah, they just look like military jets, really. And everyone at the castle is stunned to silence until one plane kind of peels off from the other 2, and it heads back towards the castle. And soon it becomes clear that it's not just flying towards the castle, it's flying like directly at the castle, and it's going to smash into it. But as it gets closer, George Cousins, I'm going to full name him every time. He sees the jet drop 2 bombs on Stancham Castle. And George Cousins yells out, "Bombs! He's bombing us! They're stupid!" But he's cut off in mid-sentence by an explosion, which luckily knocks him to the ground and doesn't really injure him. Or he's doing like a dive there. I'm not really sure. I'm
not sure, yeah. The placement of George Cousins is not clear here, but in any case.
But he's in the foreground, like leaping or being blown forward.
And then the jets fly off.
Just as he's had time to realize that something's wrong, the planes are leaving. So he calls for the emergency services, and it turns out that nobody was injured, and the police surmise that either the pilots in the planes intentionally attacked without injuring anyone, or that it was just extremely lucky that nobody was hurt. And the police officer there says that the explosion George Cousins saw wasn't a big one, and that it didn't cause much damage. So I guess earlier he was just diving to take cover, rather than being pushed by the explosion.
Yeah, that's not clear. Maybe that's not clear, or maybe George Cousins is just a coward. You know, maybe that was his tea falling over onto something that was
diving to save
very important, and it caused a minor explosion, and he needed to dive. My tea!
No. Also, that's such a British thing to be like, there was an explosion at the castle. Oh yeah, but just a small one. Like, it just writes it off like, that's all right, you're fine.
That's the stiff upper lip, you know.
The officer also mentions that the second bomb didn't explode, but it buried itself in the ground, so it needs to be dug out. And George Cousins needs to inform the castle's curator about that, which he says he has. And that's who we join next. Roy, no surname, telling his wife that he's just received a phone call from George Cousins. That's not me this time, though. Roy fully names George Cousins. making very sure everybody knows who this guy is.
Maybe there's a lot of Georges. Maybe her wife, maybe Roy's wife knows a ton of them, and he's got to specify.
Yeah, you got to be specific. Which George?
Maybe the only people that work at the castle are named George.
And they're all called George just to make it easier. You can remember everybody's name that way. So yeah, Roy tells this lady, who I guess she's his wife, that there's been a bomb threat at the castle and he needs to go over there to check out what's going on. She asks Roy whether he thinks that some thunder they heard earlier was actually the bomb. But Roy says he doesn't know yet, and that George Cousins didn't say much on the phone. As he leaves, she asks Roy to send Sammy, who has been playing out in the woods by the castle all day, straight home if he sees him. I don't know, there's been a bomb threat at the castle, which is directly next to the woods, so I feel like it's a bit more urgent than like, oh, just if you see him, send him home.
Yeah, if you see our boy that was playing in an area that was bombed.
Yeah, if you happen to see him.
Could you politely check in with him and maybe send him home, perhaps?
Yeah. It gets even worse because, as we'll see, he doesn't try that hard.
It's the 80s. We were a lot more lackadaisical about child safety,
yeah,
as we'll see.
But Roy says that he'll do that. So on his drive to the castle, Roy wonders who would even want to bomb the castle. And he's wondering if it's the Saxon Liberation Front. And I had to look that up because I had no idea what he was talking about. Like, I'm from England, but I don't know what that is. And it seems to not be a thing. So I found some information about a far-right political group in Germany, but they were formed in the 2020s. So I don't know what he's talking about.
I was worried you were going to mention a far-right German group that was formed earlier. So, well, I don't know where you're going with that. I don't know what the Saxon Liberation Front is.
I still don't know. I tried to look it up, but I couldn't find anything.
Roy Harker, what are you thinking?
Yeah, he finally gets his surname. Yeah, Roy Harker. In the narration box there.
Yeah, and he wonders all this, and then finally gets out of his car, then lazily calls for Sammy
That's
twice.
all he does. Yeah, like you were saying, there's been a bomb threat, an actual explosion. All he does is he gets out of his car and calls him a couple times.
Yeah, Sammy. Waits a little bit and then yells, Sammy, your mom says go home. Not, hey, are you okay? There was a bomb.
Sammy doesn't seem fazed by that either. He's busy playing in the forest, so he's pretending to be a Native American. He's got like a headband on and a bow and arrow, and he's pretending to stalk his dad and send a message to one of his...
Sammy knows nothing of cultural appropriation.
Yeah.
So
I was somewhat wondering how to handle that, but I mean, he's a child, and it's nothing,
Tisk, Sammy.
Yeah, you can't do that anymore, maybe. But when you're a child, I mean, he's innocently doing it. I think it's not really parodying anything. So
I am curious what he shoots the arrow at. So you mentioned that, he's just kind of watching his dad, and so he's crawling around behind him, and then he's saying that he's going to send him a message. So he shoots the arrow. Is he shooting the arrow at his father? Because that doesn't seem like a great idea.
I don't know. Maybe that is what he's doing, because he shoots the arrow and then he gets upset that he lost it, which is like, well, you just shot it. Of course you did. What?
And to be fair, you're trying to shoot your dad, apparently, so he kind of deserves it. So he's going to climb up a tree to go get his one arrow. That's why Hawkeye never runs out, by the way, is so he doesn't have to do stuff like this, like climb trees to go get his one arrow.
That would be a great issue to have, though. Just an issue of him collecting all his arrows he's lost.
The slowest, the most exciting Hawkeye yet.
Yeah, just him thinking to himself and ruminating on things. Philosophy.
But Hawkeye didn't shoot arrows at his dad. One would
No,
assume.
and he probably wouldn't miss either, so that would have ended badly.
And Hawkeye probably wouldn't get snuck up on by a 20-foot tall giant robot.
Yeah, as we're about to see, this part is wild. So yeah, Sammy shoots his arrow, and it ends up in a tree, and he is upset that he's lost it, so he goes to get it back. And this kind of mild drama feels so like a British kids show to me. Like, that's the stage at this point. There's been a bomb, but no, we're more concerned about his toy arrow. I feel the pace is a little bit interrupted here. So we get jets coming and then a bomb, and then it's like, oh no, my toy arrow. And it takes a whole page.
And then he promptly, we take a whole page of him climbing up the tree, essentially. He gets to the top, and at the top of the next page,
Ga-ga-ga. He's face to face with Jazz, who's either managed to sneak up to the tree and not make any sound so as to surprise him, or Sammy managed just not to notice him before that. But anyway, they see each other for the first time, and Sammy is so surprised that he yells out and almost falls down from the tree. But he catches a branch and he's able to land on his feet. And he calls for his dad and he starts to run. But Roy has already given up looking for him.
Yeah, Roy's already wandered off, by the way, first of all. Like as in we see him driving away. A, and then
Maybe he's made peace with the fact that his son is likely dead.
yeah, and then B, we get Jazz, who is very slowly following Sammy.
Yeah, without speaking.
Jazz, who can transform into a car, by the way, a car which is fast. Jazz, who is a giant robot who does not get tired and can go fast, decides to just lazily wander after Sammy.
Just slowly walks after him. And Sammy's like terrified. He's even shouting like, no, please, no, when he's running away. And he's so scared that he runs all the way home without stopping. And for whatever reason, Jazz doesn't pursue him at this point.
Yeah, he even says in blind, numbing panic, he ran as fast as he could, or he didn't stop running until he reached the street where he lived and home.
Yeah, look at his poor face. He's terrified.
And then finally, Jazz just pulls up in front of his house in car mode now.
Yeah, so Jazz didn't follow him when he was running. He waited for him to get inside, and then he pulls up outside. And he radios a report to Autobot leader, which we can assume is Optimus Prime. And he says the threat level is minimum, but the target is under surveillance. So Jazz can talk, but he's just chosen not to and come off as really scary.
The threat level is definitely minimum. The stakes have never been lower.
No. He did injure that tree quite badly, though.
Well,
with that arrow.
Yeah, and he did step on the kid's bow and arrow set. Maybe Jazz was upset that he was trying to be a Native American.
Oh, no. Jazz is telling him off for appropriation.
Yeah, Jazz is really angry
Oh, you're right. He does step on it. What a bastard.
All right, so that's our new story, is that, that was completely deliberate by Jazz. He was very upset.
Telling him a moral lesson.
For Native Americans everywhere, and he wanted to teach Sammy a lesson. It doesn't explain why he just picks him up later, but hey, this is where we're at.
Autobot leader tells him to continue watching and to report back again if the threat level rises. And at this point, we have no idea why they're so interested in Sammy in particular, but that's the situation that we've got.
Jazz gets the most exciting job in the world, staring at a house.
Staring at a house and chasing children, which he's very good at, which is concerning.
Meanwhile, then we join Roy, who's investigating the bombing.
Yeah, he's back at the castle with the police, and the police have no idea why anybody would want to target the castle. The Air Force has been informed, but they're also confused by what's going on. The planes are unmarked, so they have no idea where they could even have come from. And the police chief says that the whole thing is a mystery, at least until they dig up that second bomb. And George Cousins comes back and interrupts their conversation. George Cousins tells Roy that Sammy just got home in a state of shock, that his mum called the doctor to come, but that Roy should probably get home quickly. And then what feels like quite randomly, we get like a flashback.
I cannot... How do we explain this? We get a random flashback to the castle, essentially.
Yeah.
And just a large force led by Godwin attacks it.
Yeah, we're hundreds of years in the past now. 1017, and there's an army being led by Godwin the Strong Arm. And the narration takes like this oldie worldy kind of feel to it too. It says they did surround and besiege the castle and plunder the neighboring village for food and cattle.
There, many men fell dead, and women and children burnt in their houses, and some hostages taken. Again, children's book to sell toys.
Yeah, it gets a bit harsh for a second. It details the hostages being taken, and people being burned in their homes, which is really full on. But it's okay, because in the pictures, in the art, there's like a house that's on fire in the background, but nothing is too gory there, so it's not too scary. But yeah, if you're old enough to really understand the weight of that, that's... The tone, again, is shifting, like, wildly from Lost Toy Arrow to, like, rape and pillage, essentially.
And then, I mean, we turn the page, and so first of all, this next page is suddenly in color in the original one, but also we continue on, and suddenly the titular Man of Iron
he's showing up
appears, now. And Godwin's forces are suddenly disturbed.
Yeah, the forces are assaulting the main castle gate, but it looks like they took a bunch of losses in the attempt. And then, as they tried to breach the castle, the ground begins to shake and an apparition comes among them, it says, as if sent by God. And it says that it was so terrifying that it even scared the horses. I don't know, I feel like that's not saying much. Horses get spooked by a bag or a hedge when they're not expecting it, but...
Much less a giant robot that looks like a weird cross between Jazz and Megatron.
Yeah, for some reason, that's the bar for horses. Like, if a horse is scared, you know it's serious.
Did this actually happen? You're from the UK. Did they teach you this in school of the castle that was under siege, and then
Uh,
Jazz Megatron comes and saves them?
oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like a one-day lesson you get, but yeah, this is in the books. So it continues on to say there's a huge apparition, which was a man of iron, who was unfazed by the combat and was unbothered by the weapons that the soldiers used on it. And it walks from the castle towards the nearby abbey, and a few brave fighters followed as it went. But none got too close because he carried what it says is a javelin of flame, and thunderbolts came from his hands.
Sword of fire and javelin of
Yeah.
flame and thunderbolts came from his hands. And we see him just shooting some soldiers with his gun.
Yeah, for no real reason, just killing humans. And in the artwork, like you said, it looks like it's Jazz, but it looks like a really simplified version of Jazz. His chest is all smooth. It's just a big.
So apparently the idea was some sort of combination of Jazz and Megatron, and that's a little bit what he looks like. But yeah, you're right. The coloring and everything, it's meant to be kind of a version of Jazz.
And then later on, it turns out that it's not Jazz. So yeah, like we were saying before, the story writing process and the timing too. I don't know if they were going with that at first, and then they changed their mind. But then at the end, I mean, I don't want to spoil what goes on later, but it all changes from here. So it's a bit, I don't know, it's very strange.
And he gets confronted by a cleric who...
Yeah, there's a priest there praying to him with a cross
comes
in
in
his
and gives him the blessings and asks him to return from where he had come, and then he just wanders away.
Yeah, that's all that happens. The priest prays to the man of iron and asks him to leave, which he does. And he says, he left no man harmed save for the fear that had pierced his heart, which is like a really nice turn of phrase there. But each man believed that this was the wrath of God, though apparently like the wrath of God will just leave if you ask it nicely. Which is like, I don't know. It's a sign from God, but if you're nice to it and ask it to go away, then it will.
Which, by the way, is not what usually happens in the Bible.
No,
Spoiler alert.
A lot more violent than that usually.
And then we reveal that is being read to him from a book.
Yeah, all of this flashback was from a history book being read to Sammy by Roy, who says that the Man of Iron was seen twice more after that, and each time it was preceded by earth tremors. Sammy says that he thinks that's scary. And with no tact at all, Roy asks him, that robot that you saw in the woods, did it look like this? And he shows Sammy an illustration from a history book. And Sammy says that, yes, it did look like that. And it asks how Roy knew.
I like... So hang on. The illustration. It's holding a soldier upside down in front of another one, but it is standing on another soldier.
Yeah. That poor guy's getting
this giant robot who's clearly getting crushed, I would think, with the size of him and everything. Is this appropriate to be showing your children? Also, it's breathing fire, which I don't remember it saying anything about him breathing fire anywhere.
No, I didn't mention that before. And he's showing that to Sammy, like, did you see this guy? And Sammy was already terrified of him. But now he's like, this guy who crushes people and lifts them up by the leg and breathes fire. Like, no tact.
Yeah. And then he explains to him, Sammy asks how he knew that was what he saw. And we get Roy that explains to him that this is from a manuscript from 900 years ago.
Yeah, that's the big reveal at the end of part 1, that this robot is 900 years old. And that's it for part 1.
Yeah, that's our cliffhanger, by the way, for part 1.
That's as high as the stakes get in part 1.
That's very anticlimactic, it feels like.
Yeah.
Especially because if you're a kid and you're reading this, you already know the Transformers are millions of years old.
That's the thing.
Because by now you've probably watched the cartoon or you've read the American comics.
Right, there's the cartoon by this point, and this is being put in a book with the American comic. So the cliffhanger of this story is that Sammy's seen the robot, and he doesn't know if it's good or bad or not. He doesn't know anything about it, right? So then he gets this history lesson where it seems like that robot he saw is really scary. But if you've read the comic that's also in this comic, you know that that's not true. So it's like, I don't know, it just comes off really weird that they wrote the story this way, but it was being published alongside another story which like really contradicts everything that this one is trying to do.
Kind of, yeah. And That weird up and down continues with the cover to the next issue too.
In the version that I've got, we got just one cover for Man of Iron.
Oh,
I
really?
think, with Jazz on the front. Yeah. There's another one for, I think, parts 2, 3, and
Yes.
4. Actually, let me check that, because that seems weird that there's no... So 1 and 2 has one cover, and then 3 and 4 has a different one?
No,
Or is there
there's a
a
cover
cover
for
for
each
1, 2,
one.
3, 4?
So the number 2,
Huh.
the cover is Mirage covered in shadow. And again, Mirage is very heavily based on his toy. But it's him surrounded by buildings. And in big yellow lettering, in Man of Iron, a nighttime visitor for Sammy.
Oh, no.
It's so creepy. Why would you do this? And
They
then I
had
want to
done
note,
nothing to make this not be creepy. Like,
yeah,
it
and
seems intentional, right?
yeah, the rest of the covers is the same as issue 1, by the way, but with one change under the fortnightly 26th January and 25 pence note at the top in blue. In yellow with blue lettering, there's with Megatron in your February calendar.
Oh, yeah, they gave all kind of like bonus things
Yeah.
with these two.
It's just kind of
Which
fun.
they-
So then we get that, and then yeah, a nighttime visitor for Sammy, which wow, that sounds horrible.
No. The phrasing, like, I think they're trying to make it slightly like a horror story, but it's not the right kind of horror story. Not the right kind of horror story. Sorry, one second. I'm just gonna get the PDF from the Kickstarter for this, because I haven't seen all these covers, unless I missed it, which I might have done.
It may not be there because they combined them in the US issue, so it's possible they just left it out.
That's a weird thing to choose to do.
Especially because it's so creepy. It's one of the creepiest kind of things you can
So
find
curious to
for
see this.
Transformers.
All right, so before we breeze on to part 2, what did you think of part 1?
No,
Man
I
of
mean,
Iron.
listen, so the tone is very different from the US. There's very much sort of a seriousness to it. I think what's interesting is that this would be the template for the UK books going forward. Now, they eventually make it work, and it takes some time, and they go through some writers to get there. But yeah, this was the template for Transformer comics for the UK.
Yeah, I think part of the reason I'm able to, I don't know, enjoy it for what it is because I know later on it's going to find its footing and it's going to get better. That sounds harsh, but it's going to get better from here. And also knowing the context of like they didn't have all the information or even character models yet when they were writing this.
You say it sounds harsh, but I think it's fine because even in the context of this series, to be honest with you, parts 3 and 4 flow much better than 1 and 2 do.
Yeah, I felt that way too.
You've alluded to it. Yeah, you alluded to it earlier, but I think there's no getting around it that 1 and 2 are very kind of slow and plodding as they kind of, I don't know if they were just figuring stuff out or what it was, but
yeah, a bit of a wobbly start, and I think they're trying really hard to focus it for kids in the UK. They're like, it's in England, there's a castle, like it's so in England that there's a castle there, and there's a child involved. So you have your proxy
and George Cousins. Don't forget that
Cousins,
name.
Very important major character, George Cousins, who I'm sure will be in the rest of the series, all 300 issues featuring George Cousins.
Was George Cousins and Sammy, were they the two characters on the cover of issue 1 in America?
Oh,
discuss.
Maybe you just blown it wide open. I can't wait for George Cousins to get to Oregon.
Think he got it all figured out.
That's a mystery that has never been solved, still. For me, at least. Who were those supposed to be? All right, so let's continue with Man of Iron Part 2, because these UK issues are a bit shorter. So I think, at least as much as I can, I'm going to split them into chunks of 2. Unless there's a story that manages to be 3 or something, because 2 feels about right, 4 feels too long, and 3 is just awkward. So yeah, we'll do it in chunks of 2, I think. So the first page of Man of Iron Part 2 picks up almost right where we left off. Sammy's in bed after his dad read to him from the illuminated text that had been found in the abbey close to the castle.
Showed him pictures of robots slaughtering scores of people.
Yep. Sweet dreams.
Just a relaxing, relaxing bedtime story.
Yeah, you had a close brush with death. Good night.
By the way, he never asks Sammy, "Hey, did you see a bombing at the castle?" They
No.
never talk about that at all.
Yeah, he gets the phone call that his son arrived home in a state of shock and doesn't seem to put together that he might have lost a leg or something. But he's fine. He got home and he's fine. Just a bit scared.
Yeah, it's fine. Nobody got hurt. It's good. An autumn night, clear, cold, and sparkling, with stars in the village of Stancham.
Danchum.
Strange forces are abroad.
Literally abroad from Oregon. And it says that Sammy's awoken. It's really oddly written. This whole sequence is strange. It says Sammy is awoken from the sleep of reality into the world of dreams, which is a really flowery way to say he's gone to sleep, right?
I don't know. And then he has a dream where we pick up on the next page, and he gets up out of bed, and he floats and sees one of the Decepticon jets and a big UFO.
Yeah, I had to read this sequence a couple of times to try and understand what's real, what's not really real. And I didn't come up with any clear answers because later on
Do we think Roy drugged Sammy to make him go to sleep?
Maybe a good dose of Calpol before he hit the bed, yeah.
Yeah. Did Sammy get into Roy's shrooms or something? I don't know. Oh boy.
Yeah, Sammy gets woken up by like magical sparklies outside the window. And then this is the 80s, I guess. He just climbs out of his bedroom window onto the roof, which is an insanely dangerous thing to do, but all right. Maybe it's a dream. Maybe he's actually on the roof. I don't know. And then from the roof, he sees something streak across the sky, and he sees that some kind of spaceship is passing overhead. And it stops and hovers above a house not so far away, so he runs down to the opposite end of the roof to be closer to the ship and get a look at it. But then he looks down into the street, or like the yard, whatever, close to his house, and there's a blue jet with a Decepticon insignia on it. So that looks like it's Thundercracker to me. But if this is a dream, at this point, Sammy's only seen Jazz. So it doesn't make sense for him to be dreaming about a Decepticon jet like that.
It's the neighbor's jet. Then the neighbor actually has one, and he just keeps it parked there. It just happens to look a lot like a Decepticon.
Oh, it's just coincidence. That is quite some coincidence.
Yeah, most people. It's a little known fact. Most people in the UK in the 80s owned jets. So
yeah,
this
they
was
were
just
giving
his
them
personal one
on game shows as prizes and stuff. And then we didn't have hangars to keep them in, so you just park it outside the house.
If you bought enough comic books and you sent in the UPC codes, they just give you one. The next panel is him hovering over himself, sleeping in a bed.
This is the most confusing panel of the whole thing. His bed is outside in a field, so not even next to the house now. We're in a field surrounded by trees. And then, yeah, he's astral projecting or something and watching himself sleep. Maybe it's symbolism? I don't know what it's getting at, really.
Sammy's acid trip continues.
Yeah, it's a completely abstract dream sequence, which is maybe not a dream sequence. In some instances, there's like a lightning flash, and then the flash illuminates a kind of F1-looking Transformer car. And still at this point, I didn't know this was Mirage, because it doesn't look like Mirage in the cartoon at all. Or in the US comic.
But it does look like the toy.
Yeah, even that is confusing to me. So they've got this cartoon that's coming out, and also a comic that's somewhat based on the cartoon, but was being made at the same time, so maybe not entirely based on the cartoon. And then the toys that are based on those things don't look like those things at all. So it's like that I don't know. I feel like that's so weird to have like a cartoon where the cartoon is trying to sell you the toys, but the toys don't match what's in the cartoon.
They kind of did. You have to use your imagination.
Oh, okay.
Also, I mean, let's be honest. Ratchet and poor Ironhide basically didn't have faces in the toys.
They did.
What are you going to do with them? You know,
I didn't know that because in
they did not.
The first issue, I think, of the US comic, there's like a Ratchet and Ironhide appearance, and they look so weird. And that's
the toy model. Yep.
The toy just looks like that.
Yeah, they have no head. Yeah, they had no head. They had no face. The face was a sticker, and only certain versions of it had it.
Oh, that make more sense in the comic, but not why they went with that as a toy when they're all supposed to be these characters with, personalities and faces and voices, and they're like, well, you can just be a turret with a with a window in it and a stick.
So, fun
pointing out.
fact: the toys, of course, came from, and you're probably aware of this, but anyway, the toys came from Japan, from the Diaclone line.
Uh-huh.
But the characters didn't come from anything until the Marvel comics. It
Oh,
was Bud. It was Bud Budiansky and Marvel Comics that came up with the characters and their names.
so the TV show writers didn't do that.
No, and so it was this weird sort of merger between Japan. The Autobots and Decepticons, that concept didn't exist. Diaclone was just a line of toys that changed into robots, or things that changed into robots. Then somebody got the bright idea of bringing it over to the States. Hasbro gets the rights to these molds. They think, okay, we need to turn this into a storyline that the kids will want. And so, yeah, it would end up being Marvel Comics. This is also why when you watch the 1986 Transformers movie, the Marvel logo appears at the start.
Oh, okay.
Because, yeah, Marvel owned the Transformers for a long time, until the 90s, in their infamous bankruptcy when a venture capitalist got a hold of them and gutted them. But he famously sold Transformers and the licenses for next to nothing,
Oh man.
which years later would prove to be a bad idea.
You know that gif of the woman looking into like the distance and there's like lots of math coming up around her
Yeah.
face? Like I'm doing that right now. The the
Yeah,
production
they
of this,
sold it for next to nothing. It's the same type of thing though. Like they sold Spider-Man to Sony, and
man, that was a
that
bad
all
idea.
started. And yeah, all these things that all these years later look bad.
So
That's what happened to Transformers.
the production timeline of this is all over the place. So they were making this cartoon
Yeah.
based on, so the very first basis was toys. Then they had to come up with, like a premise so that
They
there was
wanted a
something to watch.
story, something to hook the kids.
Right.
Yeah.
And then so they made that, but they did it in a comic and they did it in a cartoon, and those were separate.
Yeah. So the comics and the characters just, actually predate the cartoon,
Um,
at least in terms of the names and coming up with.
what's really difficult is trying to imagine the timeline of this and like all these things being communicated back and forth, and like when things were decided, because yeah, yeah, my brain is really exploding.
Yeah, it all kind of came together pretty rapidly.
Yeah, eventually, I guess everyone's on the same page. But right at the beginning here, everything's all over the place. Nothing is solid at all. I wonder why they did it that way. They had time, right? They didn't need to speed it up like that. So why did they do it this way? I mean, it's great. I really like reading these comics, and like, as much as I make fun of them, I really genuinely like them. I'm enjoying the hell out of doing this. But
Yeah.
the decisions they made to just speed up this production and get it all out at the cost of it
Yeah.
making sense.
So I
Was a
mean,
weird choice.
so when you read the Marvel Comics stuff and you're reading the American stuff, I mean, as Bud Budiansky, he conceived the names. He named Ratchet, Starscream, Megatron,
Ah,
Ravage, etc., etc. He was the guy who wrote the tech specs, which are the little biographies that appeared on the toy packages from the
yeah.
80s, which gave them the personalities and everything. And yeah, I mean, the Transformers and their characters, that's what it comes from. He was the guy. He was basically kind of locked in a room, and they had him come up with all this stuff for
This-
Transformers. So he
Wow.
was an editor with Marvel at the time, and they got the rights to do Transformers. So
Man. So, and then at the beginning of the G1 show, am I right in remembering the first 4 episodes were kind of going to be it, weren't they? And then
Yep.
like, yeah. So the comic and the cartoon were both planned to not really last very long. They were just like, here's these promotional things for the toys. Go buy the toys.
Yep. And oh boy, did it take off. Yeah.
And then that's why. So at the beginning, that's why everything's so wobbly, because it was never intended to have legs like that. But then it was so popular, they're like, okay, we need to make more. And then they had to flesh things out.
Yeah, they definitely didn't think 40 years later some people would be talking about their series on a podcast
No,
on the internet.
Right, it makes more sense now. So yeah, it was just a promotional thing at first, but it really took off, and then so that's why everything's so loose at the beginning, because it doesn't really necessarily matter that much. Okay, so that's why we got these toys that look nothing like the cartoon, because the cartoon was just a promo for the toys. Watch the cartoon, have fun, then go spend money.
Yeah, buy our things.
And then that's when later on Mirage stops looking like a actual race car. Like he looks like he's going to do an F1 race. He's got like a number on him and everything, that's what really threw me, because I was like, nobody has
26.
numbers. Who's that? Why 26? Maybe we'll never know.
I have no idea. Yeah.
And Jazz has a number as well, isn't it? What number is Jazz?
Yes.
I think that's just a British race car
3.
thing. But why those numbers in particular?
Yeah, Jazz is 4. Sorry.
Oh wait, on the cover of the issue, it says there was a checklist of the toys. I wonder if that's just the number on the checklist. Were there 26 toys? But then Prime doesn't have a number.
No, the toys had numbers on them too, or at least, sorry, the toy for like Mirage and Jazz.
So the very first Mirage in like 80, 84, 85 was like this. And then does it change later to look more like the cartoon version?
We didn't get re-releases back then.
Oh, okay. That's it. We got this mold and we're going to use it.
Yeah, you got your Transformer and you liked it.
Yeah, I'm sure. But there's that disconnect there. I think as a kid I might have been a bit disappointed to be like, no, this doesn't look like Mirage.
Now, to be fair, in general, and you've already seen this in the Transformer comics, but the art varies from artist to artist quite heavily.
Yes, it does.
And you're going to see different interpretations of characters that are nearly unrecognizable from one to another, potentially.
I'm so easily confused. That's going to really throw me, unless they're calling out everybody's name all the time, which may very well happen. That's going to...
They definitely do in the US ones.
I'm glad about that. So, yeah, we got this bed in the field.
So Sammy's having a fever dream looking at himself in a field in his bed.
Yeah, and then
Mirage just waltzes through.
Now Sammy's in bed again, but it's in his room this time.
Yeah, I think this is meant to be this is actually happening. He's waking up.
This part is real.
Yeah.
It feels very David Lynch.
Yeah, also, I mean, nobody sees Mirage. Sammy is apparently the only person who wakes up.
This gigantic robot, bigger than a house. Again, silently walking. Yeah, it feels like a Lynch movie. I can imagine this with like a white noise soundscape and very long pauses and exaggerated sound effects.
And meanwhile, Sammy's saying, "Get away, don't come over here, I don't want you here." Mirage keeps getting closer and closer to his house. But don't worry, because Mirage keeps coming, because our next page opens with Mirage looking inside Sammy's window.
Yeah, and
saying,
he's calling
Sammy. Sammy. Mirage, by the way, is as interested in getting to Sammy as his dad was after a bombing. So he just calls his name, and that's about it.
That's how you get kids' attention in the 80s. Just yell at them.
And Sammy says like he doesn't want to talk to him. He can't come with him, which how does he know that he wants him to come with him? But anyway.
Yeah, I just said your name, that's all. And then he wakes up again in his bedroom and he asks, who's doing this? And then, yeah, at this point, it looks like he's actually really woken up. But then his bed starts to levitate. So
everything starts to levitate. Yeah, something starts dragging him out the window.
So if this is real or not, I don't know anymore. But he's grabbing onto the curtains. Yeah, and all of his stuff is starting to blow around. And his clothes are like coming out of the drawer. And the picture that his dad showed him of the Man of Iron flies across the room and heads for the window. He says, "The Man of Iron is flying away." And then the picture goes out of the window and it gets caught by what looks like Jazz's hand. And that's important later. That's what makes this even more confusing later on. And now Sammy's yelling, "Put me down!" And
his parents, Roy has awakened. Both his parents are awake. Roy's got to break down the door to get to Sammy and check on him because they're hearing this noise and wondering.
Right, they're hearing from outside.
Why is their son screaming?
Yeah, they're just hearing.
Why is their son screaming? Yeah.
Yeah, Roy shoulder barges the door open, and they see that the window is open and the things are blowing all over the place. So Roy says it's no wonder that Sammy couldn't sleep, and he goes to close the window.
And he sees Mirage's butt.
Yeah. He says, "I wouldn't be surprised if," and then we don't get to have the at the end of that thought because he looks out the window and he sees Mirage's butt.
Mirage just wandering away, yeah.
Yeah, wandering into the distance.
What I don't get is his reaction here, by the way. So Roy's reaction is he stops his sentence, he sees Mirage wandering away, and then he just says, "What the heck is going on around here?"
Yeah, he makes this like aghast face through the window, and then just is like, "Oh, what the heck's going on?" and doesn't pursue that.
It's a very sitcom-y reaction to seeing a giant robot that, in theory, just tried to kidnap your son.
Yeah, like what? It's very like mild reaction, and that's it. That's where the scene ends too. So there's no like he doesn't call the police or do anything. That's just the end of that.
Well, nay, don't worry, because the next day he wanders back to the castle, leaving his son, who has just been
Traumatized for days.
possibly attempted to be abducted, leaves his son alone and goes back to work.
Really lackadaisical parenting going on. Like he was almost bombed. You gave up looking for him in the forest. You terrified him even more about his experience with this robot by saying like, "Look, this robot kills people," and then sees the robot, and then I don't know what. Everyone goes back to bed after that.
Oi, stiff upper lip, son. Go back to sleep.
You'll be fine.
Kippers in the morning. Just what the heck is going on around here, Captain?
Yeah, so he says that again, but this time he's talking to the police chief, which we'd call him a constable, I think, in the UK. And he takes Roy aside and kind of explains to him as they walk that they've scanned the site of the castle to try and locate the unaccounted for bomb. But when they did that, they found that something gigantic was buried directly beneath the castle. And it's not clear to them what the object is, but they do know that it's as big as an ocean liner, which is massive. That's huge. And they decided that they're going to excavate it. But for now, though, they want to keep it quiet so they don't attract any attention. But to excavate something that's the size of an ocean liner from underneath a castle is going to be like a major undertaking that's going to require like a lot of engineering to keep the castle from even, collapsing from the ground being taken out from underneath it.
I will note there's only like 3 or 4 people sitting under a tent and they're not even really doing anything. So man, it's going to take a long time to excavate it at this rate.
Yeah, with just this crew, it's going to take a long time.
They're not working very hard.
I mean, you could do it. It would be possible to do that, but I don't feel like that's going to be a secret for that long. Like major earthworks under a castle.
To be fair, they don't get a lot of visitors. We saw.
Yeah, like one family.
Yeah, so unless that one family comes by or
comes back
Sammy
again.
wanders over again.
Roy says that makes sense to him and he understands, but the constable adds that he probably shouldn't talk to anybody about this, including his family. But Roy says that it might be a bit late for that, and there's somebody that knows more about this entire situation than he does, his son, Sammy. Which strikes me as odd because I don't know what he's basing that on. Sammy had, like, not even a conversation with the robot. And so he just saw it and then ran away. Like, I don't think he knows that much.
No, but one of them did try to wander into his room.
Yeah, again, that dream sequence, I don't know what actually happened and what didn't happen, but Roy did see Mirage wandering away, so at least we know that much happened.
And Sammy sees a nice Porsche.
Yeah.
I want to point out here, just for a second, so Jazz is hanging out outside Sammy's home. Sammy looks inside Jazz, and the art makes it clear Jazz's steering wheel is on the same side that it would be in the UK.
Oh, I never even thought of that.
It's just a nice touch, because of course it's on the other side in America. So yeah, just a nice touch. Just wanted to point that out.
I didn't think of that. Do you think he did that on purpose?
Oh yeah, no, it's 100% on purpose. So,
yeah, after Roy's mention of Sammy, then we're back with him walking down the street and passing by a fancy car. And he gives it a look and says how nice it is. And yeah, he thinks it's a Porsche.
He's scoping it out like he's going to steal it. Nice car, Porsche. Yeah, really nice.
He's got a stick as well. He's carrying that stick in his hand like he's about to smash the window.
Poor Jazz.
But while he's looking at the car, he notices that it has no driving mirrors and no wing mirrors, and there's no speedometer in there either. But he peeps into the back seat and he finds that picture of the Man of Iron, which makes the dream sequence even more confusing because that means that the part about the picture flying out the window when everything was levitating was true. So that actually happened.
Yeah, and Mirage or whoever, presumably Mirage, I guess, bothered to take the picture back and give it to Jazz.
Yeah.
I don't know why that's all that important to them, but they really wanted to be able to have a point of reference.
So that picture did fly out the window, and they kept that and they put it in Jazz's backseat for some reason.
Yeah. So Sammy says, "And there's my drawing," and then suddenly the door opens in front of him, and something tells him, "Get in, Sammy."
Yeah, and then on the next page, Jazz continues on and he says, "There's nothing to be afraid of. Get in and let's go for a drive." Like, this is every Stranger Danger kids safety video that I saw as a child, which I feel like was maybe slightly too many. I feel like I saw dozens of those.
For a comic series that's trying to get us to buy toys, the Autobots try an awful lot of kidnapping.
Yeah, they don't come off very well. And
this is the third attempt, and it's finally successful.
Yeah, but he's so pushy because Sammy at first says like, "No, my mom says I shouldn't get into cars with strangers or whatever."
Mm-hmm. Why not? It's a nice day, and you're on holiday.
Yeah. Besides, I have something to tell you. Like, he's really, really pushing it.
I got some candy. No, anyway.
There was no need for him to be this creepy about it. He could have transformed into a robot and just picked him up, like physically. But no, he wants to do it this really creepy, insidious route.
Yeah. It continues on, like, why not just sit for a while in the front seat? Just pretend you're driving.
And we still don't have context about why he wants him to come with him either. So it just, the whole thing comes off so creepy.
So Sammy gets in and just, starts playing with the steering wheel, as one does. Jazz asks him about the men at the castle.
Yeah, so he knows there are other people involved who are adults. So Jazz knows he can get this information from somebody else, but they've just chosen for it to be a child. And I get, like, from the writing perspective, I can see they put the kid as an insert character for the kid who's reading it, right? Just like how in Terminator, RoboCop 3 is like mostly about a kid, because I think they knew kids were going to watch it. I feel like that's what they've done here, but it just comes off really...
Well, Transformers does it too. I mean, we've got Spike in the original Transformers cartoon, and he's our kind of point of reference for the Transformers in a lot of ways, especially early on.
That's true, but I always feel like Spike's pretty old.
He's supposed to be young. I don't know. Hangs out with Bumblebee. Listen, if I was older, I'd be driving Sideswipe and Sunstreaker around in a drive the Lambos and try to pick up women.
Well, that's what happens in the US issue. Buster's got like a girlfriend, and in the first issue, they're like really heavy petting in the car.
Yeah, well, I mean, the comics are a little older.
Sammy's in the front seat pretending to drive.
He's getting interrogated by Jazz.
Yeah. And Jazz leaves the door open, and it actually looks like he's having fun doing that. He's smiling and stuff. And he says he feels like a race car driver.
Well, actually, he says racing driver, which is odd way to put it, but okay. Sammy's mom wanders out.
Yeah, Sammy's mom comes out of the house, and the moment Jazz notices that, he slams the door shut. Which, again, he's just being such a creeper.
Sammy, get out of there. Get out. That's his mom.
Yeah, his mom's yelling at him.
And then, I can't, Mom, I can't. Mom, help me. And Jazz drives off, kidnapping him and never be seen again.
That's where it ends.
And that's how we end.
Jazz literally abducting a child, which is not something I ever expected to be, in this comic at all.
So I have a question for you. At the bottom of the original issue here, it reads, remember, never accept lifts from strangers. To be continued.
I mean, at least they put that in, but I feel like that's not really enough.
Does that show on your version? Is there a note?
No.
Does that show on the PDF?
The Skybound PDF doesn't have that.
Yeah, the PDF just wants you to get in the car, I guess.
Yeah. And there's like Sammy's mum just watching him being taken away. I kind of feel like I wish they had left that little warning in just to have the context that they did put that in, because without that, this comes off really badly.
And so we end. Our heroes have kidnapped a child. All is right with the world.
Yeah, most of it was a bizarre dream sequence that may or may not have actually happened. Jazz being the fucking biggest creep ever. That was really uncomfortable.
And Mirage not doing much better.
No. I am intrigued about what could be buried under the castle. I don't think it's the Man of Iron, since that appears to actually have been Jazz, or maybe not. I don't know. What did you think about part 2 after part 1?
It's so creepy, and there's
really creepy.
Yeah, so I'm reading this now. Obviously, it's been 40 years, but I'm reading this now, trying to look at it as if I was 4 or 5 years old reading this. How would this read to you as a kid? That's when I find most jarring and most kind of interesting. Like, it's one thing to look back at this now, 40 years later. I'm 45 years old at this point, but it's another thing to think like, okay, a kid reads this It's so jarring.
It's really jarring, and then it's split up too. We got to read part 1 and 2 back to back, but if you didn't, you've had like, I don't know, 2 weeks between each part, right?
Yeah. I'll say this, it feels like they want to tell kind of an adult mystery. There's not very much hand-holding for children in this. It doesn't feel like a kid's book. It doesn't feel like it's talking down to me or anything,
That is
if
true.
that makes sense.
And while usually that's a good thing, I feel like right here at the beginning, they could have done with some of that, because
Yeah, we could have used some exposition. We could have used something. We don't have a reason for anything, really.
I guess if you're young, they're just hoping looking at the cool robots is enough to hook you, because the rest of the story is not going to do that. I don't think personally.
Yeah. But they come off as creepy, and if this is your first issue of Transformers, you don't know any of these characters, and this, Jazz isn't the guy you want to hang out with from the cartoon show or the American comics. He's just this creeper.
And there's a 2-week gap, so you can't just breeze on to the next part and see what happens and get like the resolution that you need to make this less creepy. I'm not sure if I'd have wanted to come back for the next part, to be honest. These terrifying robots kidnap children and crush soldiers with their feet.
Yeah, it's very odd. It's an interesting story. It's fascinating from the standpoint of, if you've read issues 1 to 8 of the American comic, or sorry, 1 to 4, I should say. It's 1 to 8 in the UK. But I mean, if you've read, issues 1 to 4 in the American comic and where it left off, you've got Shockwave and everything that's happened with him, and suddenly you move to this. It's night and day.
Yeah, the tone is so different. It's such high stakes in the US version where, like, at this point, all of the Transformers, the Autobots and Decepticons are all down, and then Shockwave has just shown up. And then you've got, like, this twee village in England where kids are being kidnapped by Porsches.
This first part is largely a story where we're getting to know Sammy more than anyone else, I'd say. Maybe Roy, his dad a little bit, but largely it's Sammy's story. So yeah, you go from all of the Autobots and Decepticons battling to this, and it feels so insular and smaller, and just, it's so odd. It's so weird.
I wonder how it would have sold if it was completely separate from the US comic, because you have the US parts alongside this. So even if you didn't necessarily enjoy this, you've got the US part to read. I wonder if this would have survived on its own.
Well, and so what's funny is, later on, as time goes on, the UK stuff begins to outsell the US. And so at one point, Transformers UK is selling roughly 200,000 copies every 2 weeks.
Dang, every 2 weeks?
Yeah, and it eventually becomes where it's running just the UK stories. They do still run the American ones, but the UK gets to be its own issue. It's not packaged amongst US stories anymore, and that's when it really kind of takes off.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, it's so interesting to me that even back then we had these two continuities, because I mean, nowadays it's not a big deal. We've got this whole multiverse thing with everything now, right? Like Marvel has,
Yeah, we're kind of comfortable with splinter universes and different stories, and
yeah, Marvel has comics that are different from the movies to an animated series like X-Men 97 or something like that. Like everything is completely different from one another and disparate, and people just accept it. But this is 1984, 1985. It's very different.
but that's going to be really interesting to see this take off, because here at the beginning, a little bit wonky of a start and not the highest stakes, but yeah, if this becomes like kind of, I mean, from what it looks like now, you're mostly reading for the US story, and then this isn't like a backup thing that you've got to fill up the rest of the pages. But eventually, the UK story takes the kind of the spotlight away from the American story. So I'm really curious to see when that shift starts to happen.
Yeah, and they're all very different, and it's all, I think, very enjoyable for what it is. There is a period where the US comics are considered, quote, not good, unquote. But again, I have 40 years to look back on it, and it's kind of fun. Like some of the cheesy stuff, it's kind of fun in that kind of Army of Darkness way,
Oh, yeah.
And so, yeah,
there are some parts that I will make fun of, but I really enjoy it anyway. I think because it's not being so serious, that makes it really fun.
Yeah, at a certain point too, I mean, if you want the other, you've got the UK stuff that is essentially trying to tell this Shakespearean
Whoa.
drama, and then you've got the UK stuff that's has the car wash of doom.
Oh, wow.
So
That sounds
yeah,
like Marvel.
it's a little bit of a that's an actual title of an issue you'll get to. So anyway,
Wow. Wow. I look forward to that.
yeah, I'm so excited for you to go through this, and not to mention just you, but I mean the rest of the listeners. I plan to hang out on the Discord because yeah, I'm really curious to see what people's
Awesome.
reactions to some of this stuff are going to be.
Yeah, I think that's part of what is going to make this really fun is that there's going to be people like me who've never read it before getting to bonkers stuff that's going on. And then there's people like you who have read it before who get to see our reaction to that in a modern context coming to this now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just think it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to do this with me. Before we even recorded this, I realized how bizarre these first two parts were. And I've been having so much fun reading the US issues. But these two debut parts of the UK stuff felt so different and so weird. Like, I still had fun reading them and talking about them with you, though. But if you're down, I'd love to have you back again another time in the future to do like a US issue, at least one of the early US issues.
A non-fever dream would be great. Yes.
Yeah. Or like you said, later on, if the UK stuff really ramps up, then maybe we can come back and it will be fun to compare to the beginning.
Either or, yeah.
Yeah.
I enjoy it all. Like I say, you know, we talked about this a little bit before the show, but I mean, it's all Transformers and it's all fun and it's fun to share with people, I think. And that's kind of the joy of Transformers is it's crazy to me that 40 years later there's somebody like you know, talking about and reading something I read as a child.
That must be such a bizarre experience. Yeah.
It's great. I mean, I love it. You know, we talked beforehand. I love stuff like Star Trek, and Star Trek's been around for 60 years. Same sort of idea as that, you know. So it's fun. It's one of the good parts about fandom. Fandom has a bad rap. Very much it is deserved, admittedly, but there's definitely some enjoyment to be had, and I think the best thing you can do is you take the good experiences, which is stuff like what we talked about of your experiences, sharing it with others and enjoying things with others, and you discard the negative stuff. Just ignore it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know, if you're not enjoying something, you don't need to tell everybody about it.
No, and I think a lot of the reason in fandoms that there are people who are angry is because there is something that they loved and they don't like whatever is happening to it now. But the choice, you have a choice at that point to make where you can focus on the thing that you liked, or you can focus on being annoyed about this new thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, just focus your energy on loving the thing that you do love then. Why make the choice to be grumpy?
Why would I hate? I only have so much time in a day to do stuff. Why would I hate watch something so I can go online and rage about it? Now, the obvious answer to that is money and popularity, but I'm too old to care about that stuff. I don't care. I just want to enjoy my time. So I'm going to, you know, do the stuff that I like and talk about the things I like. If I watch something and I don't like it, you know, maybe I come back next week and try it again, you know, give it another shot or whatever. But I don't sit there and watch, you know, 2 seasons of something I hate.
No, that's such a bizarre use of time and energy. Yeah, so that's why I really want this kind of, if it grows into a community thing, to be like, just celebrate stuff. There's no need to talk about stuff you don't like. If you like something, then spend your time enjoying that, because it's so much fun, and there's so much, like you said, sharing it with other people, the things that you like, is really, really good fun. And that's what fandom should be, in my opinion, like celebrating. There's no need to crap on other stuff.
Yeah, and because something else is enjoyed doesn't mean another thing is not enjoyed. Or the best line,
like they're making Transformers Cyber World now, which is like, I appreciate what it does because it's for very young children and the toys are very easy to transform, and I think that's really cool. I don't think the show is that great, but that doesn't mean they made that instead of something else for me. Like, that can exist, and I can, and that's fine. It doesn't exist at the cost of something else, you know?
The best line I ever heard about any of this stuff was I guested on a Star Trek podcast, and I went on that, and we were talking about it, and we talked about, at the time, it was the Kelvin movies, the new ones with Chris Pine and everything else.
Oh, yeah.
We were talking about those, and one of the hosts said to me, when I sort of said the same kind of thing that, just enjoy what you enjoy. If you don't like it, you don't have to watch it, and you don't have to tell everyone how much you hate it all the time, etc. And his reply was, and I quote, "It may not be Star Trek to you, but for somebody, it's their first Star Trek."
Yeah.
And that goes for everything. Doctor Who, like all of these long-running franchises. And who knows, like maybe they watch that and they get into the stuff that you enjoy. I may enjoy the Skybound comics less than you, but the Skybound comics might be your gateway to something I enjoy.
It totally was. That's why I'm reading these now, because I love that comic so much. I thought I want to read more Transformers comics.
I used that example because I know that's how you got into it. But I mean, it goes for everything. The Unicron trilogy. I know people that got into Transformers from that, or Transformers Animated, or you go down the list. There's something for that everybody started out with. Doctor Who's a great example. There's 15 Doctors now. Same kind of thing.
That's been going since TV was in black and white.
Yeah.
So Uneven Flow, if everyone wants to hear more of your lovely voice, where can they find you?
You can find myself and Abby, my wife. We do Up Nerd podcasts. We do a show weekly. We have two main sort of shows. There's Fine You Pick, where one of us chooses a movie or a listener chooses a movie, and we watch it and we talk about it. And then the other one is Top 3, Bottom 3, which we take the top 3 episodes of a TV series chosen, and we take the top 3 episodes based on IMDb ratings and watch them. And then we rate the accuracy of IMDb after we also watch the bottom 3 episodes. And so that's fun. We actually did Transformers Generation 1 with TFG1 Mike as a guest. So it was 3 of us. It was my wife's first time watching Generation 1. That was one of our earlier shows, but yeah, we've done quite a bit. We're actually doing Arrow as I record this.
Okay.
Up next of Top 3, Bottom 3, a show I had watched, but we had a guest that recommended it, and so he's watching it and my wife is watching it for the first time.
Oh man, that sounds fun. I gotta find those Transformers episodes.
Yeah, and then we do variety in between each of those as we alternate. So for example, I reunited with my Tila Flyer co-host and we reviewed and talked about Transformers 1, for example,
I love Transformers 1.
Oh, I loved it. I had so much fun with that. I've watched it many times since then.
It's bittersweet. Like I love it so much, but I know we're not getting anything else.
Yeah, that's fine though. I don't know. It's unfortunate. I
wanted more.
Oh, I desperately do. Trust me, but hey, if you're going to go out on top, so.
Yeah, I suppose.
There is a little bit of that.
The next Transformers movie we're going to get is another live action one, but someone else is directing it this time, so.
Yeah. Yeah. Who knows? I mean, maybe someday they'll get to continue. We'll see.
Maybe. Oh, I hope so.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you so much for joining me. That was really fun.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. I'd love to come back, and I'll drag.
Oh yeah, thank you so much.
I'll drag Abby for some more of her first. She's read the IDW comics and really liked those, but has not read the Marvel Transformers comics. So I'll drag her along sometime.
First, and then she didn't come this time, but I think that might end up being a good thing. Because as your introduction maybe isn't the strongest first impression, I think. Not to mention me giving the history of Transformers UK, which I won't have to do next time, thankfully. All right, thank you so much, and I'm sure I'll have you back again in the future. Thanks once again to my guest, Uneven Flow, for making the time to join me. That was a lot of fun, I hope you'll agree. And all that's left for me to do this week is to tell you what we're going to be reading next week. And I bet you're shocked, we're going to be reading Man of Iron, parts 3 and 4. If you had a good time, it would be awesome if you shared this podcast and video series with any of your friends who would enjoy it too. Give the episode a thumbs up on YouTube, leave me a comment. If you haven't subscribed yet, that would be awesome if you could do that too. If you're a podcast listener, you can leave me a review. And if you're a podcast listener or a video watcher, make sure to join Discord and come and talk to us about giant robots. One other thing, I'm getting close to the point where I need to recruit some more guests because there are more UK issues coming up. I had some people reach out who wanted to do issues of the American comic. I wasn't aware at that point in time how many of these UK issues there are between issue 4 and issue 5 of the American runs. So if you're interested in covering a UK story with me, you can leave me a comment on YouTube, you can send me a message on Discord, you can reach out to me on Blue Sky, which is at ClarionComicsJP, or you can email transformersautobookclub@gmail.com to let me know that you want to come on and join the show. You don't need to have any experience, you don't need to have ever done a podcast before, you don't need to know that much about Transformers, you just need to be down for a good time, and really the only stipulation is good vibes only. And with that, until we run into each other again, take care, be kind, and do good. Till all are one.